They said it would all disappear after 60. That love would fade, passion would dry up, and our bodies would betray us. But they were wrong. What if I told you that the most powerful intimacy, the kind that heals, connects, and transforms, doesn't happen in your 20s, but in your 70s? Part 1. The Myths and Realities of Senior Sexuality. Why intimacy after 60 isn't over, it's evolving. When people talk about sex, they often picture youthful passion, rapid heartbeats, and energetic encounters. But what happens when the energy fades, when joints ache, and when wrinkles replace taut skin? For many older adults, there's a haunting myth that sexuality has an expiration date, that after 60 or 70, the doors to intimacy quietly close. That couldn't be further from the truth. The cultural silence around aging and sexuality. Society rarely shows us images of older adults being affectionate, let alone sexual. From movies to media, intimacy is often reserved for the young. This cultural silence breeds shame, confusion, and insecurity among older individuals who still feel desire but worry they're no longer allowed to. According to Dr. Andrea Willis, a geriatric psychologist, we've made aging invisible when it comes to desire. Many of my patients in their 60s and 70s still crave affection, still feel arousal, but feel embarrassed to talk about it even with their partners. The truth is, desire doesn't vanish with age. It evolves. And those who embrace that evolution often find intimacy more meaningful, emotionally rich, and spiritually fulfilling than ever before. Hormones shift, but so do priorities. Yes, hormones change as we age. Testosterone tends to drop in men, estrogen levels shift in women, and both partners may notice physical changes like vaginal dryness, erectile challenges, or decreased libido. But instead of these being seen as problems, many experts now view them as invitations to slow down, reconnect, and reframe what intimacy means. Dr. Carl Bernstein, a hormone specialist, says, after 60, the body becomes more sensitive. That's not a disadvantage, it's an opportunity. Slower arousal can mean longer foreplay, more communication, and deeper emotional bonding. This is the age when emotional intimacy takes center stage. Couples no longer chase the thrill of performance, but rather the comfort and connection of closeness. This is where true sensuality lives, in the space between pressure and presence. Real-life stories, when love deepens over time. Robert and Linda, married for 42 years, describe their current intimate life as softer, but more soulful. We don't make love like we did in our 30s, Linda says with a smile. But we touch more. We kiss slower. Sometimes we just lie next to each other, holding hands, breathing together. That's more powerful than any fireworks. Robert adds, I used to think sex was about performance. Now I realize it's about presence. These kinds of testimonials are becoming more common. In fact, a study published by the University of Michigan found that over 60% of adults aged 65 to 80 who are in relationships remain sexually active, and those who are, report higher overall life satisfaction. Why touch and emotional closeness matter more than ever? The skin is the largest organ in the body, and touch remains one of the most healing, affirming experiences we can offer another human being. In older age, physical touch like hugging, stroking, or simply lying close becomes a powerful language of love. Dr. Elise Tran, a specialist in intimacy and aging, shares. We see couples who haven't had intercourse in years but remain deeply connected through nightly cuddles, morning kisses, or shared baths. Intimacy doesn't need to be genital, it needs to be intentional. As people age, their capacity to express and receive love in smaller gestures increases. A hand on the knee during dinner, a forehead kiss before bed, or simply sitting close during a favorite show becomes sacred. These are the new rituals of senior sexuality, slower, gentler, but no less profound. The emotional benefits of intimacy after 60. Beyond the physical and relational aspects, maintaining sexual closeness also supports emotional well-being. Studies show that older adults who continue to experience intimacy have lower rates of depression, higher self-esteem, and even improved cognitive function. Touch stimulates the release of oxytocin, the love hormone, which reduces cortisol, the stress hormone, and promotes feelings of security. It's not just about libido, it's about emotional health. Especially for widowed or divorced seniors entering new relationships, discovering intimacy again can be both healing and empowering. Challenging the myths. It's time to let go of outdated beliefs. No, you don't need to have the stamina of your 20s. No, sexual activity doesn't have to follow a rigid pattern. And yes, it's absolutely normal to crave emotional and physical closeness even in your 70s or 80s. Here's what real intimacy in aging looks like. Slow kisses instead of quick pecks. Holding hands instead of grabbing. Eye contact that says, "I still see you." Conversations that begin with "How do you feel?" not "What should we do?" Wrapping up Part 1, Redefining Sexuality with Age. Sex doesn't end, it changes form. And in that new form lies something many people missed when they were younger: depth. The pressure to impress, to perform, to chase novelty. It gives way to something deeper: emotional connection, lifelong loyalty, and the kind of love that doesn't fade but matures like wine. As Linda put it, "I may have more wrinkles now, but when my husband looks at me, I see the same spark he had 40 years ago. And in that moment, I feel just as desired if not more." Part 2, The Gentle Power of Emotional and Physical Intimacy After 60. How soft touch, deep listening, and slow affection reshape senior sexuality. We often assume that the golden years are about slowing down, letting go, and withdrawing from romantic expression. But for many older adults, this period becomes one of unexpected intimacy, a time to rediscover the power of emotional closeness, gentle touch, and intentional connection. In fact, many couples say their relationships have become more meaningful in later life, not in spite of aging, but because of it. Intimacy doesn't mean intercourse. Let's be clear, intimacy in older adulthood often has little to do with penetration or performance. Instead, it's about presence, being physically close, emotionally available, and openly affectionate. Holding hands while watching TV, brushing a strand of hair aside, exchanging long looks after a shared memory, these become the language of love. According to Dr. Hannah Lewis, a clinical sexologist, older couples redefine sex not by what it used to look like, but by what connection means now. It's not about speed or stamina, it's about slowing down to feel everything more deeply. This shift removes pressure. It allows couples to explore new dimensions of their relationship, ones that aren't dependent on function, but on feeling. Open hands, the healing power of touch. Even the simplest act, a hug, a back rub, a caress, can have a profound effect on the nervous system. Touch reduces stress, boosts immune function, lowers blood pressure, and even helps regulate sleep cycles. It also releases oxytocin, the bonding hormone, which promotes trust and closeness. For older adults, especially those dealing with chronic illness or loss, touch is often the most essential yet most overlooked form of care. Speech balloon Linda, 63, shares. "Every night, my husband rubs my shoulders not because I ask, but because he notices when I've had a hard day. I never imagined something so small could make me feel so loved." It's not about grand gestures. It's about the reliability of love expressed in gentle, consistent ways. Brain emotional intimacy is a superpower in aging. With time comes wisdom, and with wisdom comes emotional depth. Senior couples often become more attuned to each other's emotional needs, not just physical ones. They understand when to speak, when to stay quiet, and how to offer comfort without fixing everything. Emotional intimacy strengthens long-term relationships by deepening empathy and trust. Robert, 68, describes it beautifully. "In my 30s, I wanted to solve every problem my wife had. Now, I just listen. I hold her hand and say, 'I'm here.' That's enough." This quiet emotional strength becomes a foundation for all other kinds of intimacy, including physical. When a person feels emotionally safe, they're more open to physical closeness even if their body has changed. Light bulb adapting to physical changes, together. Yes, bodies change. But so can the way we respond to those changes. For example, for women, menopause may lead to vaginal dryness, making some forms of intimacy uncomfortable. But simple changes like using lubrication or taking more time for arousal can make a big difference. For men, slower erections or performance anxiety can be eased with open communication, medical consultation if needed, and a focus on other pleasurable forms of touch. What matters most is this: neither partner should feel ashamed of their body. When couples talk honestly, make adjustments together, and explore new forms of connection, they often grow closer, not farther apart. Stethoscope Dr. Marcia Cohen, geriatric intimacy advisor, says, when seniors stop expecting intimacy to look like it did at 30, they start discovering how beautiful it can be at 70. Speaking head communication is the real aphrodisiac. One of the greatest advantages senior couples have is this: they've learned how to talk and listen. That skill becomes the heart of their romantic life. Saying what you like, what you're afraid of, or even what you miss, creates an emotional closeness that's deeply erotic in its own way. Here are a few conversation starters that deepen connection. What do you miss about how we used to be? What makes you feel most loved lately? How can we be closer without pressure? These aren't just sweet questions, they're bridges to deeper connection. Bed redefining pleasure and desire. In youth, desire is often fast, physical, and performance-driven. In older age, it becomes layered, rooted in memories, shared experiences, trust, and vulnerability. Pleasure now might come from a bath shared in candlelight, massaging each other with warm oil, lying quietly together after a long day, looking at photo albums and reliving your life together. None of this requires peak physical function. It requires attention, affection, and time. Bar chart what the research says. According to the AARP, American Association of Retired Persons, 70% of adults aged 60 to 74 still consider sex an important part of life. Couples who engage in non-sexual forms of affection, like cuddling and kissing, report higher relationship satisfaction than those who focus only on intercourse. Seniors who continue romantic expression show better emotional health, stronger memory, and higher confidence. It's not a fantasy, it's science. Red heart love that slows down, but goes deeper. What used to be measured in excitement is now measured in devotion. One woman shared, when I was young, sex was fire. Now, it's a warm blanket. There's no right way to age in love. But the couples who thrive are those who adapt, who let go of old rules and discover new rhythms. And sometimes, that new rhythm includes daily hugs, pillow talk without distractions, sleeping close, even if you don't do anything, saying I love you out loud often. Wrapping up part 2, intimacy is still very much alive. The notion that seniors stop needing love or stop being capable of giving it is one of the most harmful myths around aging. In truth, what many older couples discover is that the best parts of intimacy come after the noise dies down, after the expectations fall away, after they've truly grown into themselves. Their love is no longer based on appearance, performance, or novelty. It's based on presence. They've already proven their commitment. Now they get to enjoy it softly, slowly, fully. Part 3, Real Couples, Real Stories: How Senior Intimacy Blossoms with Time. Proof that love and desire don't fade with age. They deepen. Red heart: real love doesn't retire. We've explored how the body changes, how intimacy transforms, and how emotional closeness often becomes the heart of connection in later years. But theory alone can't tell the whole story. Let's hear from the people who live it. These are real stories from couples over 60 who are not just surviving the aging process, they're thriving in it. Their experiences reveal how love, tenderness, and even sensuality can bloom well into the later chapters of life. Speech balloon: Linda, 63, and Robert, 68. Our love slowed down but became more powerful. Married nearly 40 years, Linda and Robert say their relationship hit its deepest point after retirement. With the children gone and careers behind them, they discovered something unexpected: time. For the first time in years, we weren't rushing. We sat on the porch together. We held hands without needing to be anywhere. Suddenly, I could see Robert again, not just as a partner, but as the man I fell in love with. Sex was no longer about frequency. It became about presence. Robert adds, we touch more now than we ever did in our 30s. Sometimes we fall asleep holding hands. That's our intimacy. And it feels just as good as the passion we had in our youth, maybe even better. Speech balloon James, 72, and Alice, 70. We had to relearn each other gently. James suffered a mild stroke at 69, and it affected his mobility and confidence. He feared it would end their romantic life. But instead, Alice stepped closer. I told him, we were not done. We were just starting a new chapter. We stopped trying to make intimacy look like it did before. Now, we spend more time kissing, caressing, just being close. They use music, warm lighting, and humor to keep things light and comfortable. Some nights we laugh more than we touch, and that's okay too. What matters is we feel connected. That's our kind of romance. Speech balloon Gloria, 66, and Marcia, 67. Love didn't fade, it became fearless. As a same-sex couple who came out later in life, Gloria and Marcia say their intimacy feels like a second life. We didn't grow up in a world where older women were allowed to be sensual, especially with each other, says Marcia. But now we're free. And every time we hold each other, it feels like we were reclaiming something that was stolen for too long. For them, intimacy means being seen, respected, and adored. We hold each other in ways that say, you matter. You're still desirable. You're still here. That's everything. Fire key takeaway, desire evolves, but never expires. If there's one truth these stories illustrate, it's this. Sexuality doesn't disappear with age, it adapts. It matures. It softens. And sometimes, it even gets better. Here's what these couples have in common. They let go of pressure, no one's chasing youth or perfection. They prioritize emotional connection, communication, presence, and vulnerability. They celebrate small acts of love, a touch, a word, a quiet night spent together. They embrace change physically, emotionally, and romantically. Dr. Lila Matthews, a psychologist specializing in aging, says, the best sex of your life might not be in your 20s. It might be when you finally have nothing left to prove, just someone to love. Sparkling heart. Final words. The secret to lifelong intimacy? Adaptation, not abandonment. The idea that intimacy fades after 60 is one of the most persistent myths of modern life. In truth, what fades is the expectation that sex must always look, feel, or function like it did in youth. But what replaces it can be far more meaningful. A love that listens. A touch that reassures. A body that shows up even when it's not perfect. A relationship that has weathered decades and still reaches for closeness. So if you're in your 60s, 70s, or beyond, know this. Speech balloon, you are still worthy of love. You are still capable of desire. And your intimacy is not over, it's just entering a richer, deeper phase. Bell ready to talk about it? If this story resonates with you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone you love. Start a gentle conversation. Break the silence around aging and intimacy. Because the truth is, real love doesn't fade, it evolves. And it might be waiting for you in the quiet, golden moments of today.